My mother told me I was borrowed from the hospital. At 16, I discovered what really happened the day I was born. My mother told me I was borrowed from the hospital. At 16, I discovered what really happened the day I was born, and why my father couldn't look me in the eyes for my entire childhood. For my earliest memories, my mother had a special bedtime story she'd tell me. You were so beautiful in the hospital nursery that I couldn't resist, she'd whisper. Other mothers got careless babies who cried, but I saw you pert to perfect, and quiet pernt, and knew you were meant to be mine instead. As a child, I thought this was her quirky way of saying I was adopted. She'd add details about how she switched the hospital bracelets and walked out with someone else's blessing. My father would always leave the room during these stories, his face tight and uncomfortable when I asked questions about my real parents. Mom would say they didn't deserve you. They wouldn't have loved you like I do. Then she'd squeeze me too tight until I couldn't breathe. School was difficult. I had severe learning disabilities that frustrated my mother to tears. You were perfect when I chose you, she'd sob during my homework struggles. What happened to my special quiet baby at 12? I found a box of my baby pictures that started oddly late pert. Nothing from the hospital. Nothing from the hospital. Nothing from the first 2 weeks. When I asked about this, my mother slapped me for the first time. Never question the day I saved you, she hissed. My father drank more each year. Sometimes when Mom was shopping, he'd stare at me with watery eyes and mutter, she wasn't always like this, but he'd never explain further. Everything changed the day I needed my birth certificate for a driver's permit. Mom refused to show me, claiming it would reveal too much. That night, I waited until they were asleep and searched their bedroom filing cabinet. What I found wasn't adoption papers. It was a newspaper clipping from 16 years earlier with the headline, "Local woman suffers stillbirth." The article detailed how my mother had carried a baby to term, but it was born without a heartbeat. 3 days later, she suffered a psychotic break, stole another newborn from the hospital nursery, and brought it home. Me, the article included a photo of my biological parents. Parent, young, desperate, pleading for their baby's return. The police found me 2 weeks later, but something unexpected happened. My biological parents, after seeing my mother's condition, agreed not to press charges if she received psychiatric help. They even allowed my mother limited supervised contact because the doctors believed separating us completely might destroy her. The final paragraph explained that my biological parents had died in a car accident when I was 2, with no other family stepping forward and my mother deemed stabilized. The courts granted her and my father permanent custody. I confronted them the next morning, newspaper in hand, shaking with rage and confusion. "You estate ol me," I screamed. My father finally broke his lifelong silence. "By the time they found you, your real parents saw how much she loved you. They were kind people. They visited monthly until the accident. All those stories about choosing me." Her therapist suggested we incorporate elements of truth into a narrative she could accept. My father explained, "I wanted to tell you when you were older, but she improved so much with you here. I was afraid of losing you both. I moved out last year for college." My relationship with my mother remains complicated, parent knowing I was essentially kidnapped, yet also understanding she's mentally ill and genuinely loves me in her broken way. My father recently gave me a package my biological parents had left, just in case, parent letters they'd written to me every month until their death, photos of our supervised visits I was too young to remember, and a note explaining their difficult decision to let me stay Schnoens. "Sometimes love means making impossible choices," they wrote. "We chose to give you stability rather than trauma. We chose to forgive rather than punish. We hope someday you'll understand. I am still processing what it means to be simultaneously stolen and given away, but I am learning that family parent, real family parent, can be formed in the strangest, most painful circumstances, and sometimes forgiveness is the only way forward, even when the truth feels impossible to bear."